Hello everyone, I want to thank you for clicking on the video. I'm Frank DuRoss and I will be your child's AP Environmental Studies teacher this year. Um, tell you a little bit about my background here in this video, and then we'll talk a little bit about AP Environmental Science, about the course, about the exam, and I'll give you my contact information as well. So I am a New Hartford graduate myself. My family moved to New Hartford when I was in seventh grade, and so I started at Perry Junior High. Eventually graduated from New Hartford in 1992. While I was in New Hartford, I became interested in ecology, environmental science, and so I decided to pursue those subjects as an undergraduate at the University of Vermont. I did eventually earn my bachelor's degree in environmental studies, my BS. Um, and From there, I decided to go to graduate school, again, pursuing the field of environmental and forest biology. I started my master's program at SUNY Environmental Science and Forestry on Syracuse's campus. While there, I was studying computer modeling of ecosystem dynamics. But eventually, I learned and realized that I actually had to get a job after graduate school. And so I sort of switched gears. And while I was at SUNY SF, I had started teaching some lab courses as a graduate assistant and really enjoyed it. So I decided to shift gears and transfer to Syracuse University to pursue my master's degree in science education and become a teacher. I've been in New Hartford my entire career. Okay, this is my 23rd year. Most of that was at Perry Junior High up until last year, and you probably know that. This year, my students in APES are almost all students that I've had previously, some of them twice before. So they are a rare and unfortunate group of students, some of whom have had me 3 times now. But I love the fact that I already know them, they know me. We have a great relationship, and so it makes getting into class just much more smooth. And so I love teaching environmental science. It's what I studied, it's my interest currently, it's always been my interest. And so when the opportunity came for me to move here to the high school to teach environmental science, I jumped at that opportunity. And I really enjoyed it last year, and I'm enjoying it again this year. I'll give you a little overview of AP Environmental Science, or APES as we shorten it to usually. It's really the equivalent of a 1 semester lab-based environmental science course that you would take at a university. And it's environmental science is a field that is multidisciplinary. It incorporates aspects of ecology and biology, chemistry, and geology, as well as some of the social sciences such as economics and also government and politics. So the course allows us to sort of delve into a huge variety of different topics. And we'll talk about some of those topics. And the education that students receive in environmental science is key to them understanding the world that we live in. As many of you, I'm sure, are familiar, environmental issues are going to be at the forefront of what our children are going to be addressing. And this course will give them a very solid background in the science um, of those environmental issues that are so important today. It'll help your students be more informed, more aware to citizens of our planet. It will help them to build some of the critical thinking skills that we need as we analyze different perspectives, as we think about environmental issues, about what causes these issues, about who's affected by environmental issues. The course will challenge your students to think about issues probably more broadly than they might otherwise. When we look at the breakdown of the course itself, the curriculum is prescribed by College Board, as all AP classes are. And the course sort of starts off with sort of a little bit of review about ecology. That's where we are right now in the ecosystems unit. We then talk about biodiversity and populations. Then we move into resources, earth resources, land and water, energy resources. And then we start to move into areas concerned with aquatic and terrestrial pollution, atmospheric pollution, climate change. So we sort of build up the science in the beginning parts of the course and then apply that science to real world environmental issues as we move through the middle and the end of the course. These are the breakdowns about the percent of the AP exam that comes from these various topics. And the first few topics are some of the least asked about on the exam, and then it builds from there. So when we think about the plan for our course, the AP exam, I'm sorry, this date is incorrect. The AP exam is actually May 2nd, and it's one of the earliest exams for the AP classes. And so we're on a pretty tight schedule this year. Last year it was almost 2 full weeks later in the year. So we'll cover our units pretty quickly. We are reaching the end of Unit 1. We'll work through the first 5 units in the beginning part of the year, and then we'll finish with the last 4 units at the end at the second semester, and then build in some time for us to review and prepare for that AP exam. One thing that's a little bit different about the way I approach class is sort of the instructional model that I started using in APES. I'm using what's called a flipped classroom. And to help you understand what a flipped classroom is, let's just compare it to a traditional classroom where the teacher spends time while students are in the classroom lecturing, talking about notes, going over content. And then students get homework, application problems, lab activities that they have to complete at home. That's sort of the traditional model. A flipped classroom approach swaps those two things. So in the flipped classroom model, the lecture, the notes, the content material, students are going to watch videos of that at home, videos that I record each day with the content, with the notes. That's what they're going to do at home. They're going to check their understanding with that material through practice on the AP Classroom site. And then our time in class is used for applying that information that they learned by discussing various topics, by completing in-class lab activities. So this gives us the time that we need to really work through some of this content. When otherwise in a traditional model, students would be at home, and if they were stuck on something, if they were confused, they're kind of stuck until they got back to school the next day. Flipping these two areas around allows for students to have time in class to interact with the material, to apply it at a higher level while we're there together so that we can help each other. So the majority of work that your students are going to be doing at home is basically watching videos of our notes and then going on AP Classroom and answering some questions, checking their understanding. When they come back to class, the next class period, we are going to go over those AP Classroom questions. I'll ask if they have any questions about the notes. They have an opportunity to seek any help on things they're confused about, and then we'll move on with our in-class activities. So this is a pretty unique. I don't know a whole lot of teachers in New Hartford that use this sort of model, but the feedback, I started this last year, and the feedback I heard from my students is that they really appreciated this model, and it worked for them. The course will prepare them to be successful on the AP Environmental Science exam. The APES exam is one of the more difficult AP exams in terms of when you look at the distribution of scores. It consists of 80 multiple choice questions, which make up about 60% of the exam, and then 3 FRQ, free response questions that they'll have to answer. One of those is about designing an experiment. One of those is about analyzing an environmental problem and proposing a solution. And the third is the same sort of question, but also involving some mathematical calculations and manipulation. The test itself is broken up into 2 parts, 90 minutes for the multiple choice, 70 minutes for the free response. Although last year was my first year teaching the course, I am familiar with the curriculum. I also served as a test scorer outside of school hours on my own. So I graded last year's AP Environmental Science exam. So I have a little bit of understanding about that process and about what AP scores are looking for. If you are wondering, how students did last year, I have some numbers on that. If I compare our class last year to the average in New York State, you can see the breakdown. I was very pleased with how students did on the exam last year. We doubled the New York average in terms of extremely well qualified, scores of 5 and 4. We're right there on qualified, a score of a 3, and we had fewer students as a percentage that scored a 2 and no students that scored a 1. So the students of last year were successful, and I anticipate students this year being equally successful. Your students will be prepared if they follow, if they're completing all their work, they're completing their videos and questions at home. They're going to be getting a huge amount of practice at AP multiple choice and free response questions. So it's going to help them to be prepared when the exam comes. And that exam, I think I misspoke earlier, is May 3rd at 8 a.m. in the morning, one of the first AP exams that are happening in the spring. Their grades in class are composed of a few different things. There's some what we call formative assessment. These are basically things that they're going to complete, and they're just being graded on completion, right? When they answer their questions on AP Classroom after watching a video, I'm not grading if they got them correct or incorrect. I'm looking for them to complete them, and then for us to go over them to help refine their understanding of the material. So if they watch the video and answer the questions, they sort of are getting automatic points there. Some activities we do in class are sort of enrichment activities. Sometimes they may be graded and turned in, other times they may not. Also, at the end of every unit, there's what's called a personal progress check. It's basically sort of a practice exam for the unit that students complete. They're fairly lengthy, but they're a great way for students to look at how they're doing on that progress check and checking their understanding, kind of gauging where they are thus far. These personal progress checks happen 2 classes before each of our unit tests. And then we have our summative assessments, our unit tests. These are the assessments that tell us, did the student understand the material from the previous unit? Have they mastered this? Are they ready to be successful as they move forward? And we also will have lab activities that we're doing. Currently, we're working on an activity involving algae beads. We're also completing one using eco columns that we are in the process of setting up and collecting data. Students are doing an owl pellet analysis of the energy dynamics of an owl's ecosystem. We also have some reoccurring activities, things students are going to do repeatedly throughout the year. One of those is the flat Lorax activity, in which they need to find examples of situations that apply to AP Environmental Science and take a picture of their flat Lorax that they made with that scenario. And that helps them to connect what we're learning in class to the outside world. And there's also a monthly field experience students are going to complete, in which they're going to pick a field site this month in September and revisit that site in October, November, all the way through the month of June. And each time they're going to go to that site, they're going to take some notes, they're going to observe the ecosystem and submit their field notes for me to review. And this is going to help them to sort of better understand whatever place that they've chosen for their field site, to help see how it changes through the seasons, to help get a sense of the rhythm of that piece of the earth. I really love the class, and I'm so excited to be teaching it. I'm also so excited to be teaching your children again this year. Like I said, I've had many of them in the past and have a great relationship with them. They're a lot of fun. They're very smart. They love to have a great discussion. And I love the course. AP Environmental Science is a course that has applications everywhere you look. And you'll probably hear from this from your children that they can connect everything that we're studying in class to something that's real to them, some situation, some scenario, some news article that they've seen. And that's one of the joys of teaching AP Environmental Science. It is a very concrete, very applicable science. And for many students, this may be the only AP science class that they take. And part of the draw is that ability to connect what's happening in class to the outside world. Please, at any time, feel free to contact me. You can always email me, call me here at school. I will get back to you in the same day. And I thank you for entrusting your children to me in class this year. And I'm really looking forward to having a great year. Thank you.